Welcome back to the channel, guys and gals. So tonight I had a question that was asked about G-scale sets. Now my years in G-scale have been since I was 2 years old. G-scale is still something I still mess with from time to time, but I have gotten to the point where I prefer O-scale. Now there are some similarities. If you got a big layout, you need to make sure you have the power to support it. Whether you've got a big layout, small layout, or however you're running. I know a lot of guys in G-scale at one time were running, I can't remember if they call it DCC or DCS or whatever it was, but it was a wireless system, and they could run multiple trains on one track, which was really cool, because Dad and I had looked at doing that before he passed, updating the layout. On the layout, we had what we called a block system. And we all have dealt with block systems and stuff like that. The layout itself was around a 2-car garage, literally a run around it. On that layout, the line LZW that I use was on that layout. Now, even some people may ask, how did you get an AC power pack to work with DC? It's very simple. The line LZW, we had them cranked up all the way, okay? On the back of the ZW, there's multiple control points to allow power to your track, right? Dad took, I think it was called Tech, or Copper Tech, whatever it was, a copper color power pack. And what he did was he took the throttle assembly completely out of it, because it already had a built-in rectifier going to it. So when he was wiring it, he wired it off the ZW, went to the throttle control, which controlled the power, which had a built-in rectifier, and went straight to the track. Now that controlled the 2 main outer loops, okay, that went around the layout. And those 2 main outer loops, again, had jumper wires. And because the locomotives we had, they were big. Needed big power. Well, as LGB progressed, they went to a different lighting system. A constant 5-volt lighting system. That means as soon as you hit the power to the track, first 5 volts go to that lighting system. So you have to ask yourself, what is it exactly that you're looking at wanting to do? Well, for us, we used a block system. And the way this block system worked, here's a rough layout. We had coming off this line, let's say this was the inner. Give me 1 second. You know, we're going to do something about this here real quick. Let's see here. That little glare back there kind of sometimes gets a little bit in the way. I have to turn that bulb in. We'll get to the point here. Just 1 second. Ah, that's better. Okay. Stay right there for a second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so right here on this little layout, okay, we had 2 tracks that went completely around a garage. Off here, we had a siding, went this way. Oh, hang on. And then we had a crossover here that connected these 2. And this was also on a block from here to here. Right over here, we had another that came off to a storage yard. Just like that. Okay? Now, aside from that storage yard here, there was another that spurred off, came down over here to another storage yard. After that, it spurred off again to a turntable and multiple tracks for engine storage. Okay? Over here, we had a runabout track right over here. We always called that the test track area. As you come back around through this wall, on this side of the layout, these two tracks, there were some more tracks up through here that would run off, cross over, two tracks over here, another runoff with a track over here, another runoff back over here that would do this number and connect back in. And then on this end, there was a siding over here and a runabout here. And again, another spur off. I mean, it was massive, okay? All the lights on the building, on the layout, all lights, were powered by, believe it or not, an AC Gilbert transformer. Very early, it was a gray one. I think they said that one was a 75 watt, something like that. So we had a ZW that ran the two mains. We had the AC Gilbert that ran the lights. That AC Gilbert also powered every single switch on this layout. 54 switches. So the power was significant. Now he used under the table switch machines, which meant they already had a built-in rectifier because it came off of his HO layout years earlier. Now when I said a block system, all these switches, everything was on a block system on the main transformer. Cab 1, Cab 2, Cab 3, and Cab 4. 3 and 4 cab controlled all of this. 3 did this, 4 did this one. Okay, that is a lot of stuff to control off of 3 cabs. Now, off of that, those two, 3 and 4, actually had their own power pack. And what he was using then was not the Line L, it was, in fact, I think it was the Coppertech power packs underneath these two sections, okay? So we had 2 of those. The trolley section also had its own power pack that controlled both digital switches and controlled the trains. We had 3 trolleys that ran on a single reversing loop made by LGB. That ran off of a Tech 2 power pack, something like that. I forget. I think it was Tech 2, because we did not run double rail on the trolley. We only ran single rail. What I mean is that he had overhead catenary. The overhead catenary was actually powered as the power rail that would be on, if you had just down 2 rails. So, the layout was very, very, very well thought out. Each section, this was Allen, so we're going to put an A right there. See, this was, the trolley section was back up over here and ran up over this way. So the trolley section, which also ran an interurban and cross switches, that was another thing right there. That was Haskins, so we'll put an H over here. Over here was Landrum. Now, you'll notice all these names, Allen, Haskins, and Landrum, all these were friends of his. So, and Allen was actually his business partner in the G-scale world. Allen had the biggest power pack. because it had more switches going on. Okay, it had more power that it needed over in this area. Haskins had its own power pack, which was, again, one of those copper power packs. I think it was Copper Tech or something like that. This yard area also had its own power pack. Landrum had its own power pack. So you looked at it, and underneath the layout, people will say, my God, you got a big ass ZW there. You got an AC Gilbert. You got all these power packs and all these controllers. And some of them were AC powered. Big AC powered. Everything on this layout was rigged that way. It was done so you can have a running session if you wanted to, or an operational session. There's a kicker. On the main panel, right here, okay, there was 4 switches on that panel. You throw those 4 switches, you can take this from a 6-man operation to 1 man. And the 1 man could operate everything on this layout. That was very cool. Now, as the years progressed with LGB, one of the things that came about was that 5-volt lighting setup. Also, LGB started making power-hungry locomotives. A lot of them were. Not Lionel, but LGB, Aristocraft, and there was a few others in there. Bachman even had one that was just a power hog. And I think that was the first year of their Shea. The biggest power hog we had was a box cab electric Swiss locomotive, and I think they called it the Baby Croc or something like that. It was like the sister of the crocodile. That thing was such a power hog that even, yes, today, I still have it to this day. It will pop the transformers. Why? It's got a big motor in it, massive lighting in it. It takes a massive power pack to run it. All the others, the original LGB that my father started with in 1968 does not have that. Okay? It's crazy. Now, again, let's go back to this. So we got the ZWs. We know what all the ZW, original Lionel ZWs are worth, okay? They're massive. They'll run anything, pretty much. Depending on the size of your layout, the size of the power pack. Not only just the size of it, but you also need to know the locomotives themselves. What are you pulling? How much amps is the locomotive going to pull? How big is the motor? Does it have that 5-volt lighting system? Are you running passenger cars powered off the track? Now, you got to take all these into consideration because it's going to pull power down. Now, back in the day, all the way up to about, I think we'll say about 84, 85, LGB had a very consistent system to fix that. What it was is that you take your coaches, you put your bulbs in, get your little wiring kit, and then you'd buy an extra car to match that train. Now, it could be a box car, it could be an express car, whatever the case was that you were doing at that time. And you'd put a battery pack in there and wire your lights with a switch on there to run the cars. So that way you're cutting the power coming from your power pack. You're not having to overwork your big main line. So that is some of the things that you can do. This layout, my father's layout, over 54 switches when he passed, over 700 feet of track, and power packs out the butt. And we were talking about rewiring it to simplify it because it was just he and I running the trains. We weren't doing open houses anymore for the Dallas-Fort Worth train shows. And we enjoyed it. I still enjoy the G scale, don't get me wrong. But I found with O scale, there's a lot more stuff that I enjoy with it, which is the reason why I went O scale. I still have some key components from my father's layout, including the last 2 locomotives he ever bought me before he passed. One was a welcome home gift from the Army, and the other one was because he felt bad from years earlier. He sold my LGB F unit. And I kept always told him not to worry about it, but he wanted to. And before he passed, he bought me that locomotive unit. Pennsylvania 5-stripe F unit. By the way, that one's, even though it's a power hog, runs very well. But also keep in mind, if you're running a ZW and you go into a DC current on 2-rail, whether it's 2-rail O scale or 2-rail LGB, whatever the case is, if you're going to run this breaker, send it off to Henning's Trains, get them to update it or update it yourself. Also, be sure to get the speed controller out of, like I said, I think it was called Copper Tech or something like that. Copper transformer, because it has a built-in rectifier in it from AC to DC. We used a block system on everything. Everything, just like you say, you can have non-powered switches. That's fine. But you're still going to have power going to that rails unless you cut them. In O scale, most of the time we just deaden one rail, done. It's not going nowhere, right? LGB, yeah, they have sold an insulator. You might put one on there, it might do a job, or it might jump it and go through. Then you got power going to it, you got a problem. So what we did, we didn't just put the insulator in there. We actually cut the rails and left just a small gap in there to make sure nothing arced across. And we had a wire with the switch. This layout in total, even on the switches for on and off power in different areas, including the track yard area back over here, which each one of these storage yard areas after the tunnel was actually split into 2 blocks on each track. There was literally, when I counted them, when I had to take the layout down, there was over 300 switches on that layout. He was a mad scientist when it came to that. And God forbid, I'm glad we never actually got into rewiring it, because it'd be a year-long process to rewire it. The turntable, he custom built. The control panel, it actually had its own power pack. The power pack was actually from, I want to say it was Aristocrat, but it was so powerful, it literally burnt the motor up in here. So we had to turn it by hand. The other thing is, if you're using a Bachmann power pack, the Spectrum, be very careful with that. The Spectrum series power packs are designed for very small motored locomotives, and you can burn them up real fast. So try to stay away from the Bachmann Spectrum unless you're doing like HO or just small locomotives. If you're running the wireless system, so that's why you can keep 2 trains running at the same time on one track. Always kind of remember, that's a lot of power you're pulling there. So depending on the size of the locomotives, 2 locomotives is still a power draw no matter how you look at it. O scale, we have four motors, and some of the G scale stuff, they're getting 4, 6, 8. Now you're getting into some really big power packs. Bridgeworks makes a good one. I think their lowest one is I think it's 2 controllers. One's for the train, and then one's for accessories or something like that. You can adjust the lighting on it. But just check into that if you're doing G scale. AC Gilbert, same thing. When it controlled all the switches, it actually, all the switches had a built-in rectifier that he was using from under the table. And I don't remember where he got those at. I can't remember the name of it. I think I got a couple of them up there at the house. Tech 2s, they work really good, especially on the small locomotives. Don't try to do a big one, because you may only get about 10 minutes worth of run time before you pop the internal fuse. You take a lot of things into consideration, even if it's not a real big, layout, or even if you're just setting it up on the floor. Try to make sure you have the power to do what you want to do. The MRC 9000, it's a good power pack, great power pack. I suggest getting it for what you're doing. If you're running big locomotives, again, you're going to need a bigger power pack than that MRC 9000. MRC 9000 will probably run it as far as a single locomotive with freight cars. But you start putting more power to it, it may not hold out. So just, kind of figure your wattage and your amps and how much you're actually pulling, okay? Because as you get bigger and you get into something like this eventually, you're going to need big power. And don't think for a second you cannot add, which we did have, and I should have saved that power pack, but I didn't. Times that times 2 and phase them together. Because you want to draw power. Or just go get the Bridgeworks. Bridgeworks makes a very large power pack. Again, it's the same principle. Either O scale, G scale, ON30, HO, what have you. It's all the same principle. So I hope y'all enjoyed this little session we had about the G scale layout on my father's side and the history of the ZW. This ZW I circled right here actually powered my father's entire HO layout. Then it went to the building work on the G scale, and now it's working on my layout. That's a long time and a long life on one ZW. It's proven they're built to last. And the AC Gilberts are there too. Figure that one out. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please hit the subscribe button if you did. And if y'all have any questions about this, drop me some comments on it, and I'll answer them the best I can, because I grew up with that layout. 2 drop-in sections and a fold-down section. So it went around completely around a 2-car garage. And it also housed 3 motorcycles inside, plus a potbelly stove caboose. It was large. As always, keep the shiny side rubber down. I will see you in the next video. And to the subscriber that asked that comment about the G scale transformers and stuff, that's the best answer I can give you, bud. I will help you in any way I can. If you need some help, that's what this channel's here for. Again, thank you all. Thank you to the subscriber for bringing this up, because it's something I kind of wanted to do. Y'all have a great night. I will see y'all tomorrow. I'm going to take some medicine. I'm going to bed because I'm still not feeling well. I will talk to y'all later. Keep the shiny side rubber down. See y'all then.